Good to go. Hi, everybody. This is Robin Bartoletti, broadcasting to you from Dallas, Texas. And I have with me here Rob Power. And Rob is going to talk to us about mobile learning for those of you who are in the MOOC Instructional Design for Mobile Learning and anyone else who wants to listen. Rob is an instructional designer with lots and lots and lots of experience. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about his experience with mobile learning and how he got into it. So, Rob?
Hi, thanks, Robin, and hello to everybody watching this Hangout broadcast. Yeah, I've been involved with mobile learning now for a few years, pretty much since I started my doctoral studies back in 2011. I really got into mobile learning. I'd always been interested in educational technology before that. I did a Master's of Education in Educational Technology way back in 2003, 2004. I was teaching information technology here at College of the North Atlantic, Qatar, in Doha for about 8.5 years before I moved to the Advanced Learning Technology Center, where I now work as an instructional developer. When I started my doctoral studies back in 2011, right away I knew I was going to be interested in looking at mobile learning applications, and it wasn't too long after that that I got involved with an organization called the International Association for Mobile Learning. And I went to my first MLearn conference with them in Helsinki in 2012, where I was invited to present a paper on some research that I had done with mobile learning here at the college. And the following year, I was actually tasked with organizing and hosting the MLearn conference, the 13th World Conference on Mobile and Contextual Learning here in Doha. And since then, I've been doing I completed my doctoral research. I've been doing some research with partners at Ohio State University, as well as some other collaborators in other parts of the world. And I've been involved with helping to redesign and relaunch this MOOC. And I'm looking forward to answering any questions that you might have about mobile learning instructional design.
Great. So you've got a really rich background in mobile learning and educational technology. So what was it that first drew you to mobile learning and made you interested in wanting to work with mobile learning?
Well, at first I'm not exactly sure what it was that drew me to it. It just seemed like a logical step for me. But now when I look back in hindsight, I look back and I compare my doctoral dissertation research to the research that I was doing for my master's degree almost a decade earlier. And I can see some very strong parallels. Back then, I was looking at the use of broadband technologies to increase collaboration between students and teachers within their classroom and between classrooms and even between geographical regions, but not with mobile devices because they really weren't that prevalent at that time. At that time, I had just gotten my first Palm Pilot, and it was pretty clunky. But by the time I started my doctoral studies, I had my first BlackBerry device at that time, and I enjoyed playing with that very much. And I knew that this was the type of technology that could really make a difference, and that was the direction that things were to be going with instructional design, especially for some of the outside of classroom stuff and some of the more informal learning. So that's how I kind of knew that I was interested in it at that time. I also knew that it was kind of cutting edge, so there was the cool factor involved with it, and that there hadn't been a lot of research done with mobile learning at that point, and I wanted to get in on the ground floor, so to speak.
That's great, and we can see your poster from your paper. Is that from your dissertation presentation behind you?
That predates my dissertation. That poster was from the original public presentation of the CSAM framework back in 2013, the spring of 2013. I had originally devised the CSAM framework as part of a presentation for one of my doctoral courses. After doing some research here at the college and doing some work with mobile RLOs and presenting at MLearn in Helsinki and watching a lot of the other presentations there, reading the papers that were presented and reading some other textbooks and stuff, I was asked by one of my professors to give a presentation to my cohort on a learning strategy that could be used for online distance or blended learning. So rather than taking something that had already been described in the literature, I described what it was that I was working on and what it was I'd gotten a sense that I'd seen presented at the conference that I'd been at and some other conferences. And I focused on pedagogical elements of it, and it ended up being called the CSAM framework. And at that time, it was just an assignment that I had passed in. But a few months later, I was asked to do a workshop at a conference here in Doha on building mobile RLOs. So I themed that workshop around CSAM, how to use CSAM to design your RLOs. And then shortly after that, I was accepted to present a poster on the CSAM framework at a conference in Abu Dhabi. And that is the poster that I presented, the actual poster. And after I presented the poster, I was actually asked by the conference organizer to submit an extended paper about it to his journal, Learning and Teaching in Higher Education Gulf Perspectives. So that was the first actual published paper on the CSAM framework. And it sort of took off from there. I originally didn't intend to focus my dissertation research on it. But after getting some positive feedback and some encouragement from some of my mentors, I shifted gears. I did focus my dissertation on it, and the original paper from LTHE ended up forming the sort of skeleton for the lit review chapter of my dissertation. I significantly expanded on it and did a lot more research to sort of verify framework.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the CSAM or CSAM framework, how it's useful to teachers and instructional designers?
Sure. Well, I have to go back sort of to the beginning here and how it came about for me, because for me it was a mental conceptualization of what good pedagogy would be for building mobile reusable learning objects, or mobile learning objects in particular, any kind of mobile learning objects. It was a sense of the key pedagogical elements that I had gleaned from reading some key textbooks on mobile learning and from attending different conferences, seeing different presentations, seeing examples in action. And I basically wanted for myself to have some kind of skeleton framework where I could fit all the pieces in together and ask myself, okay, what am I missing from my design now? What do I need to add to my design to make it a little stronger, a little more effective? What have other people been doing that I should make sure that I'm doing? So those are the four key elements that are in there: the collaborative, situated, active, and mobile. And as part of my dissertation work, I actually did a meta-analysis of 5 years worth of literature just to see how prevalent those four elements actually are represented in the literature. And it turns out that discussion of mobile RLOs, or the use of combinations of applications that mirror the functionality of mobile RLOs, are represented in almost 30% of all the articles over that 5-year period. And out of those, roughly 90% of them are collaborative in nature. So collaborative learning through mobile learning is very predominant. And of the ones that were explicitly described in the literature as collaborative, they had all of those four pedagogical elements in there. So I kind of knew that I was onto something. And what I did for my dissertation research was try and see how I can make this into something useful for other teachers. So I built my own MOOC, which I ran last spring, and I had 75 participants in that. And a lot of the materials that were represented in week 2 of ID4ML actually came from that MOOC. I kind of condensed it down a bit and got to the practical nitty-gritty, cut out a lot of the theoretical background stuff because we were kind of a bit compressed for time. But essentially, what it gives you is scaffolding. So you know that these are the core pedagogical elements that all the major researchers have been including, that the major practitioners have been including in the big research projects. So they're important for you to consider when you're designing your own mobile learning applications. And with that framework in mind, you can ask yourself, okay, I've got a collaborative activity I want to do with my students, so maybe I can look at mobile learning for that because it is good for collaboration. So now, what can I do with the tools that are at my disposal to facilitate collaboration? Can I use some social networking tools to help them contact with each other. Can I use some of the apps on the phone, such as WhatsApp or SMS or anything like that, or even discussion forums in like a Winsight mobile RLO or on an LMS, anything to help students be able to communicate with each other and collaborate. And can I also provide them with the information that they need and the cues as to when to start the activities and what types of activities to be collaborating on to help speed that collaborative process along. And then I can ask myself after that, okay, I know that they're collaborating, so what else is important when we're talking about mobile learning? Well, when you're talking about any kind of learning, it's important that students are able to connect the learning activity to something in their real life, something meaningful to them, something that they can internalize and see the relevance of the learning. So that's the situated aspect of it. And what mobile devices allow us to do is to go beyond the classroom and beyond talking about a hypothetical situation and actually put students in that live situation. Rather than talking about different types of species of flowers or trees or different species of amphibians that you would find in your natural environment, you can go out and you can look at them, and with your mobile device you have the tools at hand that that you need to capture evidence and to look up some other background information and to share that information with whoever you're collaborating with. Then you get to the active learning component. All right, I know that they're going to collaborate. I know I'm going to situate this learning experience in a realistic context for them. But now we get down to the nitty-gritty. What are they going to actually do in that learning experience? They're going to engage in active learning. I've found from my experience teaching my previous MOOC and some of the comments that I've seen in the discussion forums in this course that some people get a little bit tripped up with the active learning component of CSAM. And they're thinking mostly about, okay, the students are active, they're out there moving around, they're actively using their devices. That's not exactly what we're getting at with active learning. We're talking a bit more about activity theory here and actually actively being creators of new artifacts of learning. So you put the student in the situation, they have a motivation for being involved in the learning situation, they have goals in mind, what they want to achieve in the learning scenario. They're going to take the context that they're involved in, they're going to take the evidence that they're presented with, the artifacts they're presented with, and they are actively going to transform their situation and the information they're presented with into something new. They're going to actively create maybe a new website, or they're going to actively create a new skill set for themselves, or they're going to actively create new knowledge that they can share with the world, whether that be through a wiki post or a blog post, or even editing a Wikipedia page, anything to actively create an artifact that demonstrates what it is that they have achieved. And then we get to the mobile part. Well, there is the mobile device aspect of it, but when we're talking about the mobile and CSAM, we're talking more about the mobility that you provide to the learner simply by using a mobile device. The ability to move around in space and time. They can move around their classroom, they can move around their school, they can move around their learning environment, they can be anywhere, anytime, and encounter a situation where it's appropriate for them to further their learning experience, and now they have the tools at hand to be able to do that. They've been mobilized and able to do that. So that's what I've tried to achieve by developing the CSAM framework, by developing some of the learning materials that were presented in this course and in my previous MOOC, some of the other RLOs that I've developed on that, is to give teachers a framework to help them design their learning situation. Start with the learning goals that you already have in mind. Don't start with the technology, don't start with the framework in mind, don't start with the mobile device in mind, start with your learning objectives. That's always the most important thing. Learning objectives will be the one constant throughout the education system, no matter how much technology evolves. Then you move on to figuring out what tools you want to use, and you can use this framework then to help you design the learning activity around your goals and the tools you have at your disposal. Also, I think that the CSAM framework is an important tool for teachers to use for reflective practice. After you've designed your learning resource, after students have participated in the activity, teachers can use this framework to go back then and sit back and think, how did that go? Were they collaborating? Was there anything I could have done to get them collaborating more or more effectively? Was it really situated in a realistic context for them, or could I have situated it a little bit better? Could I have made it more realistic and more meaningful for them? Did they actually actively generate any artifacts of learning, or could I have facilitated that a little bit better? Or could we have used technology to help along a little bit better? And did I really get them mobile, or did I just keep them in their desks and pretend that they were mobile with their phones? Could I have done that a little bit better?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because when we think about mobile learning, sometimes in the classroom, we don't think about how students naturally use those mobile tools. They don't sit at their desks and tweet their friends, well, unless they can get away with it. But they're out and they're taking pictures and they're taking selfies, and meeting them where they are is so cool. I think sometimes we forget that. We kind of try to fit it into a more formal situation, and it doesn't always work like that. So you've done a lot of work on the framework. What are your next steps as far as research, or what are you planning to do next with the framework?
Well, the very first thing that I'm going to do, or that I've actually already done, was take the original MOOC that I designed last year, and it had a bit of a long, convoluted name, so I do kind of got to find a better name for it. It was the Creating Mobile Reusable Learning Objects Using the Collaborative Situated Active Mobile Learning Design Framework. So I got to come up with a better name for it. But I have actually taken MOOC and all of the contents for it, which was run actually in Canvas, and I have exported a zip file copy of the course, and I also have an active copy of it available right now that anyone can access and sign into as a student, and it's sort of a train-the-trainer type copy of it. So if you are interested in running that MOOC yourself, which is, as I mentioned, an extended version of what we've done in week 2 with a little bit more added in, if you're interested in running that yourself at your own institution as a professional development resource, it's now up there, open access. Anyone can take it. You can take the original materials, modify it, put your own institutional banner on it, change around a few things, as long as you give me credit for the original work, because it is up there on Creative Commons. Personally, I'm a really big fan of open access resources. I don't like putting things behind a paywall, and what's the point of doing that? I'm not really going to help the whole education game. I'm not going to help learners around the world. I'm not going to help my fellow teachers if I put it behind a paywall. The only thing I'll be helping is my own bank account if anyone buys it. So that was the first step. From there, I'm in talks right now with some collaborators of mine at different institutions to expand on the research that I did for my dissertation and with that MOOC. We also developed a new survey tool, which you did see in the week 0 of ID4ML, called the MTSES. It was based on the original Ohio State Teacher Sense of Efficacy Scale. We did some testing on it to test the construct validity, the reliability, all that sort of thing, make sure we were testing what we wanted to. And what we did is we ran that MOOC for a 3-week period, and we ran the MTSES survey at the beginning and again at the end, and then again 4 months down the road. We wanted to see what kind of an impact participating in that kind of short professional development course would have on teachers' confidence and interest in using mobile learning resources in the classroom as compared to their sense of confidence with their existing teachers' skill sets. And we did see a marked increase in their level of confidence and their interest, so that's encouraging. I'd like to take that research a bit further, get a wider participant base, see if the same holds true in other contexts beyond just the general North American context that the majority of participants in the study were in. See if it holds true in a European context, in an African context, in an Asian context, that sort of South American context. See if it translates for teachers in other parts of the world. I've been approached when I was at MLearn 2014 in Istanbul. I was approached by some researchers from one of the universities there who were interested in adapting the MOOC themselves, and they wanted to translate it into Turkish Arabic. So that's an interesting possibility there. And I am in talks with some collaborators about revising and relaunching the MOOC or repurposing it for other professional development purposes. And we're looking at using some of those same tools that were developed for some other research projects, such as investigating the impact of using mobile RLOs on STEM education, on teachers' abilities to prepare for and deliver a STEM education, and on the impact of that on students' computational thinking skills. So there's still some some grant applications in the works on those sort of things. And well, you did see the survey in week 0 of this course. We're going to ask you to do it again in the final week of the course, because I'd like to see how IDA 4ML stacks up with helping teachers to become more confident with their sense of efficacy or confidence with mobile learning in general. And I think that because we've already proven the reliability and validity of the MTSES tool, I think that that tool could actually be useful for us in figuring out just how effective ID4ML has been and how we can improve upon this for the next offering. So those are kind of some of the next steps. And the next big thing for me that I have in mind is to actually take some of the materials and activities that have been developed for my previous MOOC and to translate them into a mobile app as opposed to a MOOC. So something that's really in your pocket that you don't have to take as a formal course. And something that you could use to help you when you're trying to make decisions about using mobile learning in the classroom to guide you through the process of scaffolding your decision making and to help you reflect upon it and your own abilities and interest in mobile learning in that respect. But you got to be careful with that sort of thing because you don't want to become too prescriptive as to what mobile RLOs or mobile learning should look like. So I try to keep it a little bit vague with the framework and not. If anybody asks me in the MOOC in the discussion forums, oh, what specifically should I be doing with this element of CSAM, I try to keep it vague and just shoot out a couple of ideas to them. But really, it's your imagination, it's your context, it's your learning objectives. I'm just telling you the key pedagogical elements that need to be in there, not how you actually design your tools to facilitate those. So those are kind of the next steps.
Well, I think people are going to be really interested and thrilled that you're so willing to share it. I'm also a big open educational resources advocate, so I think that's great. And if we can, maybe we can post a little bit more information about how they can contact you if they're interested in repurposing the content for some of their context or even translating it to another language. So you've done so much research, and in the course you've focused on using free tools that are out there. So what exactly are mobile RLOs, and why have you chosen the tools that you've chosen to use, the free tools, as opposed to the professionally created applications?
Those are some good questions. Mobile RLOs, in particular, are reusable learning objects, and there was a question about this actually that popped up in the discussion forum, so I was glad somebody asked it. A reusable learning object is basically anything you can use over again. It's no more complicated than that. If I were in sales, working the sales floor at a store, and I had an ID lanyard like this, a reusable learning object for me could simply be a checklist printed on the back of this. It tells me, okay, did you make sure that you asked the customer this? Did you make sure that you did this? Here's what to do if the customer comes in angry and asks for a refund about a product. That's a reusable learning object. It doesn't need to be digital. And it is mobile, by the way, because I can take it with me anywhere, anytime I have it available. So a reusable learning object is something that can be used over and over again. It can be repurposed if necessary. If I went and switched from working at the Gap to working at the Foot Locker, well, I can still use the same checklist if I still have it. So that makes it totally reusable and repurposable. And the mobile aspect of it simply means that it's mobile. You can take it with you. When we're talking about digital mobile RLOs or digital RLOs in general, we're talking about small little tools or small little learning experiences or resources that really engage the learner for a specific short duration task. I wouldn't exactly call an entire course like ID4ML an RLO, a mobile RLO. It's not, it's a course. However, the video that I popped in of Kathy and Elliot describing what a mobile learning device is, that's become a mobile RLO. I've put it into a couple of courses now. I've put it into a couple of presentations, so I've repurposed it. And now I've even gone and used the new EdD puzzle tool that I found, and I've repurposed it again and added some questions in around it. So it's constantly evolving. It's small. It's portable. I can put it in wherever I want. One of the key features, though, of RLOs that everyone should keep in mind is that they're typically free. You don't charge for an RLO. You can pop it in whenever you need it. So I could use it in ID4ML. I could use it in my own MOOC. I could use it in a presentation. As if you're talking about a math RLO, You might be talking about something that shows how to calculate the placement of numbers on a real number line, for example. I'm not a math teacher, so I'm trying to grasp at straws here. But well, I did design one along those lines. I used Adobe Captivate for it, which is a professional tool because I did it here at work. And it was used for the original course that I designed it for. But hey, it's just talking about the real number line. It's not specific to only one particular course. I could put that into another similar introductory level course or into a review unit in another course. We could use the same RLO in high school if students are talking about the real number line. It's able to be repurposed because it's a small object. You take it, you install it into your course, or you upload it online and people can access it that way. A YouTube video is a perfectly good example of another reusable learning object. Anyone can use it at any time. You can embed it into a course if you like. Why did I choose to focus on free resources like Winksite as opposed to professional resources? You could probably see behind me here that I have a Mac behind me. I'm looking at a dual monitor Windows laptop computer here right now, which I have the full Adobe Creative Cloud suite on. I have some other high-end instructional development tools on this computer. But I like to use the free stuff because I can experiment with more of it. But more importantly, everyone can use it. It's free. It's out there. If you don't already have it on your computer, you can download it. You don't need to pay anything for it. And generally, things like Winksite, it's a little bit convoluted trying to design pages in Winksite for the first time. But the learning curve is not that high. You don't need any coding skills. You don't need any programming skills. It's basically WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. I want to put a link. Okay, I put the URL into the link block and it shows up on my page. It does the heavy background work for you. So more teachers are able to take advantage of that. And because it doesn't cost money, you don't need to install it on your computer. Anytime you sit down at any computer, you can build one of these and you can edit it in a really short amount of time and get it launched and out there for your students. So there's a low learning curve, low production time involved with it, and no cost associated with it. That's why I wanted to focus on it. I want to have the biggest impact for the most teachers out there. Also, because there's a low learning curve to using a tool like that, or to using other free online tools like YouTube, we're able to get our students doing it as well, not just ourselves. So we can see it quickly, we can get our students doing it quickly, and they can become authors and content producers themselves. And I've actually had quite a bit of success doing that with some of my students here.
And that fits right into what you were saying about making them creators and the idea of active learning, not about running around, but about creating things. So that fits right into what you're saying. So what reusable learning objects have you made yourself, and do you use maybe in your work or for anything else?
Well, you've already seen a couple of them that I've popped links to into the ID4ML course. One of them was an intro to mobile learning one that I developed. I was originally asked to just send along some primer materials for some students in an entry-level teacher preparation course. It was their first educational technology course, probably the only one they were going to do in their program. I'm not sure about that, but I think it might have been. So rather than just sending along a list of things for them to read in advance, I put together a quick reusable learning object for them because I knew that I wanted to focus on talking about that when I did a guest webinar presentation with them, and I wanted them to see in advance what it was I was going to be talking about. So I just popped some background materials in, a few videos in, made it interesting for them, and it got a pretty good response from what I understand from their professor. So that's one, and you've seen the link for that, and I've put that one out there now as an OER resource as well. The conference I talked about that I was invited to give a presentation on how to build mobile reusable learning objects. Just before I did that poster, I produced a reusable learning object. Mobile RLO called the Create Your Own Mobile RLOs RLO. And I actually ran my presentation off of that one. They were rather refreshingly surprised by my approach. I didn't go up and launch a PowerPoint presentation. I launched a browser. I had a QR code up on the browser, and I said, okay, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes. Scan that if you can. If not, here's the URL. Go there on your phone. Follow along with me. And then I took that down, and I showed them how to build it themselves. And I actually took callouts from the audience for the topic and for the specific question. We built an RLO in under an hour as a sort of crowdsourced activity, and they really enjoyed that and got some ideas about how they could do this similar things like that with their students and do it for free. Some other examples that I've done, I do have a link in ID4ML to my QR Cache RLOs. Those were actually the first ones that I built. So they are a little bit, some of them are a little bit heavier on text than I would like to design now. Some of them are a little bit clunkier looking than some of the ones I design now because it was my first try at it. And I actually did all of those while sitting in the coffee shop at a conference. I was talking with some of my colleagues there. We were not happy with some of the presentations we had seen about mobile learning projects that some of the presenters were doing, because we felt that they were really more examples of just dumping content onto an iPad, for instance, and giving it to the students. It wasn't really mobile learning. It was just content delivery on a mobile device. And I said, well, this is, from what I've read, it should be more like this. And then I just did a few things on my tablet, put a couple examples together, and I said, no, here, look, here's an example. I could print off this QR code and put it on the back of a computer, and my students could scan it, and then they could learn about that particular part. So I took that one step further after the conference, and I finished building the entire suite of them, completely on a mobile device, by the way. It took me twice as long as it should, but I wanted to see if I could do it. And then I actually ran that with some of my students here. They're all EFL students who are sponsored employees of some of the local oil refineries. They were doing an Introduction to Computers course. So rather than getting them to work from their paper workbook, I actually got them up with phones, running around the classroom, opening up computers, looking for whatever QR codes they could find, and scanning it. And then the collaborative part of that, they were sharing devices. They were going around collaborating on all of that. But then we actually had a whole group collaboration, because there were little survey questions at the end of it. What's the correct name of this? What's the correct name of this? What's the function of that? And I was actually able to pull up a graph on the screen, because Wingsight will give you analytics like that to show you percentages of responses. And I said, oh, look, we've got 10 people in here, and one of you said that a RAM chip is this, and the rest of you said that. Well, why do you think somebody might have said that? Is he right? Is that person right? Or is everybody else right? And so it kind of led back into a whole group discussion. So we kind of went full circle. I dispatched them to circle around the classroom, and then we were able to use the mobile devices to draw us back together again. So that's another example. And another example that I did here was, rather than having students, I taught for several terms a course called SD 1570, Effective Learning. And the final project for that course was they had to do up a PowerPoint presentation on some of the learning resources available on campus. And all of our students are getting kind of sick of doing PowerPoint presentations, and they don't like to get up and present anyway, especially when English is not their native language. So I said, okay, we're going to do this differently. And I gave them a 1-hour presentation on the CSAM framework. I told them, you guys are going to build some mobile websites. You're going to use them to teach everyone else in the class about your topic. You don't have to get up here and stand up here for an hour. They're going to learn it from your website, not from you talking. And here's what you got to do. You got to make sure that they can collaborate with each other when they're working in a group. You got to make sure that they can actually take this and find their way there to the actual resource. So you're going to situate it for them and situate it in a way that they know exactly what they would use this resource for. Not something abstract, but something meaningful to them. It was active because they actively created the RLOs themselves, and the students could actively go and find out about all these resources and learn more about the campus. And it was mobile because they were using their mobile phones to do it. And I actually let them, they come to class, sign the attendance roster, and then they go on and work on their projects, get pictures, do videos, whatever they needed to. They really enjoyed it. I think it was one of the more successful class projects I've done here on campus. So those are a few examples. And I kind of did learn from my experience during that conference, where I actually presented from a mobile RLO, And that's pretty much all that I do now. I either present from a mobile RLO or I present from an LMS if it's a longer presentation. For instance, the MOOC that I described, the trainer version of my MOOC that I ran last year, I actually did a conference presentation on that at MLearn last year. I ran the entire 3-hour presentation from that MOOC. I walked everyone through the original course and showed them how they could use it themselves at their own institution. So I kind of like to do it now from a live website as opposed to a PowerPoint presentation, and it's quick and easy to design something custom, even with only a day or two's lead time before your conference.
Yeah, that makes me want to come and take your class from you. I know what you mean about students being tired of PowerPoints. So it sounds really, really exciting what you're doing with them. Before I ask you, I have a couple more questions before I ask you that. I did want to say that you do have a website, and it is robpower.weebly.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll post that. We'll make sure that we post that on Twitter and in the course. And then you also have powerlearningsolutions.com, and you do consultations, which is great because you'd be a great resource for people trying to figure out how to get started with mobile learning. So what would be the one piece of advice you would give to a teacher who is approaching Link's site? And I know we have a lot of great examples in the ID4ML class right now of what instructors have actually done. But what would you say to someone if they're trying to figure out what activity can I use for mobile? I need to have my learning objective first, but how do I figure out which activity to do? What would be the main piece of advice that you would give them?
The main piece of advice that I would give them would be, sorry that I'm looking off to the side there, I was just putting the URL for my site up on Twitter. The main piece of advice that I would give them would be to ignore the mobile tools altogether until you have an idea of what it is you want to do with your students. Start with what it is you're already good at. Your subject area, your learning objectives. You're an expert in that already if you're a teacher, or you should be, or you shouldn't be in the game. From my experience, the teachers that I've encountered, all of them, they're all wonderful. They're all experts in this. Some of us need to have a bit of a boost to our confidence, especially if we haven't been around the classroom for very long. But we are experts at designing lesson plans. We are experts at the content. So start with that. Then look for ways that you could make your lesson plan a little more innovative than the traditional way that it's been delivered, and that innovation might be bringing in a piece of technology like a mobile device. That's what I would recommend to start from. I could give some specific advice as well. If you are going to be looking at building a Wink site mobile RLO, the first bit of advice I would give on that was you made the decision to build an RLO is sketch out exactly what you want to do. Before you even log onto the computer, before you even start building anything, design it. Do the instructional design part. The instructional design part starts with the objectives, then a description of the learning activities that are going to take place, and then you sketch out what you want your RLO to look like. And I actually actively advocate that you draw these. Draw a little rectangle, fill it in what you want each page to look like. So I've encountered some people who have said, oh, there's too much work to that, I won't be able to fit it all in the little sketch. Well, if you can't fit it all in the little sketch, you're not going to fit it all onto a single mobile screen. So you're not designing it properly. You've got to get it down to fit onto that one screen and figure out where it is you want to divide it up. You might have a branching activity, so you need to have your sketches and your little arrows and your circles and your loops and all that kind of stuff to figure out where you want everything to go, what links you want to have, what pictures you want to have in there. And then once you've got your sketches done, list out all of the images you want to put in, all the YouTube videos you want to put in, all the external links that you want to put in. Have all these things listed, ready to go, so that it's just a matter of copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. I put it all in Winksight and piece it all together. So that's the best advice that I can give on that. It's a little bit more groundwork up front, but once you finally sign into the computer, bang, 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 there you go. It's a lot quicker and easier than you think.
And as an instructional designer, I'm thrilled to hear you say design it first. It's so hard sometimes to get people to think things through before they want to get their hands on the technology and start doing it. So I know that you have
Yeah, we do have a huge problem. If you don't design it first, you're going to fall victim to one of the biggest nightmares of project managers, and that's something called scope creep.
yeah.
You start out with a little idea in mind. I want to build a website for this. You have no plan of action, plan of attack. You start building, 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 and oh, this is cool. I'm going to add this in. I'm going to add this in. Oh, I think we should be doing this. And it just keeps building and building and building, and then you're like, oh, I forgot to put in this bit, so now you got to put something else in. Before you know it, you have this huge monstrosity. And not only is it a monstrosity for you to build and manage, it's a monstrosity for students to navigate their way through. Simplicity is key. And you want to get that simplicity through extensive design in the beginning.
Yeah. So I know that you have a ton of information that you've already shared, and a lot of the things that you've said are probably in your dissertation and other materials, but I wonder if you would be willing to make a reusable learning object doing what you just said, because it was so simple and clear, explaining, you know, here's what you do. You make a list, you draw a picture, all those things.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great tool for, especially for a K through 12 educator who doesn't have any experience with technology like this.
Okay. Yeah, I could build something really quick and easy here, actually. How about we put together something that's got a few resources on how to get started with building reusable learning objects, and we'll start with this webinar. We'll start with we'll add in a link to our course, maybe a graphic, and a link out to my other RLO. So that gives me an idea, and maybe I'll put it in a discussion forum there too, so we can have a bit of a collaborative aspect as well, and everyone can share their thoughts and exchange on that. So I do believe that I have a tool here where I can share my desktop. Yep, screen share. Okay, so I'm going to share out my screen here, and I'm going to minimize my Google Hangout. So, Robin, could you please just let me know if you can actually see what I'm working on here now?
No, we're still seeing you. So,
okay.
I don't know if it's
because I haven't hit share. Sorry. There we go. All right, so you should be able to see my desktop here now. All right, so.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, I just have to go to my other screen here and grab a link that you have posted. Here we go, the YouTube video. Okay, so here's what you guys are seeing now, the YouTube page here. So I've got this.
This is so meta.
Okay. All right, I better pause that so you're not hearing me. And I'm going to sign into Wingsight here.
This is so exciting. We're actually doing it right now. This is the best Google Hangout ever.
Okay, nope, don't remember that. Yes, I know it says that I have a total of 25 sites there. I did a favor for the guy who created Wingsight, so he did a favor for me, and I've got 2 accounts now with 25 sites max each. Yeah, in the instructional design world, it pays to scratch each other's back a bit too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I have got this URL here. I'm just going to grab that, and I'm going to create a new site here. Create site. And I'm going to call this getting started with ID for mobile. I'll just call this ID for ML here. I always like to put in my own custom description there so that everyone knows what this is about. I'm not going to worry about all of this stuff on here at this point. Directory listing, okay, I'll leave that on. Category, educational. And I'm not going to put in any inappropriate content, so I can click on Build Site. All right, so on here I can change my default colors, all that kind of stuff if I want. But I'll leave it at this for right now. And hit save. I can go back and customize all that stuff later. So I'm going to create a new channel here, and I'm going to call this Hang Out with Rob with a media block. So there we go. There we go. So that is that channel. And let's see, I'm going to create another new channel here now. And that is the mobile RLO's RLO. And is it? And I need to go and get the URL for that. So that is, no, it's not ML intro, but I do have a link in there to that, I think. No. Dashboard. My other sites. Here we go. Create your own mobile RLO's RLO, and here's the URL for that. So I'm going to add that in as a link. This channel will link to a URL. There we go. Save. EdD or ML MOOC. And this will also link to a URL. There we go. Okay, and I don't need all of these on, so I'm going to turn off the blog and the journal and the feeds and the notes. Oh, these were off, I do believe. They should have the on-off reverse there. I will create a discussion forum, and I will post a topic to this. Let's share.
So the only other thing we need is a little mock-up for them to print out and draw on.
Yep. And I have that.
I figured you probably did.
Okay. And save. So that discussion forum is there. And yeah, I'll create another new channel here now. Storyboarding.
Excellent.
Okay, and okay, so I need to go and grab an image that I have. Yeah. There's the image. Okay, I can put that in the media block. Oh, sorry, I did that on my other screen, so you didn't see me actually get the image. And I do believe what I'm going to do here now is sign into my Google Drive. And I need to upload my sample storyboard page. I'll put that under my sandbox folder. Lots of files here from when I was putting this course together. I'm not seeing the storyboard file there. Storyboard template, there we go. So I can actually drag this over to my Google Docs, Google Drive now. That is uploaded. So that is the template file. So I'm going to share this. Share. Get a shareable link. Copy. Go back in here into this channel. Add that here to a link. Oh, nope. How to storyboard. I need to create a subpage in here to add that link into. Show link pages by title only. Link pages together. Yes. Display link pages by title A to Z. Save. And now I will edit this channel. Nope, not edit. Sorry. It is add a page. And click the link below to download my free storyboarding template. And I'll just put that picture back in here again. Save. That is up there. Turn to main menu. And I'm just going to show you how to create a survey in here now quickly. New survey. What do you think? Did you like this presentation? Yes. No. That will be all that I add. For responding, display link to results, yes. Link back to the referring URL, yes. Oh, intro text. Save. There we go. Main menu. So I want to make sure that my survey is on. Yes. And I believe that that's it. So now I can preview my site, I always right-click on the button and open it in a new tab so I can quickly go back to my dashboard. Here's our site. You have drop-down menus here for all of these options. There's our current presentation. Oh, what's going on here?
I think, are you talking about the background?
Yeah, that's
yeah, that's just an artifact of looking at it online.
Yeah.
Well, that is so awesome. Thanks so much for showing us how to do that. And we're almost at the hour, so I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I do want to say that we'll make sure that everyone has the link to the little tool that Rob just built, and also all of his contact information, because I know you're going to want, people are going to have all kinds of questions and want to get in touch with you. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to participate in this, and it's been great. I've had a lot of fun, and just let me know if you have any questions. I'll be around the course and around the forums. My contact information's in there. You can find me on Twitter at Expat Letters. I'll always take questions on there 24 hours a day, almost, some people think. And thanks again. Just let me know if you have any questions. I've already tweeted the link to my ePortfolio, and I'll just go back on Twitter here now and put up the link for this site. There you go. So that's now tweeted.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rob, and thanks for working with us on the different time zones. And thank you to everyone who is watching and tweeting, and we'll see you in the course.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.